Hello my lovelies, my name is Stephanie Lynnette and welcome back to my channel if you're one of my lovely 7,308 subscribers as of filming this video. So recently I took quite the leave of absence from my channel, and I decided that one of the things I wanted to do when I came back to the channel is film a kind of semi-life update, semi-Q&A. However, I had quite a few more questions than I was anticipating, so this is pretty much just a Q&A, and we'll move the life update to some other time when something more life update-ish may or may not have happened. Who knows? I'm quite a boring person. So yeah, today we're going to be doing a Q&A. So just a little bit, I guess, a little bit of the backstory about why I've been away. Essentially what happened is I was uploading YouTube videos weekly, very regularly in the start of 2024. And prior to that, I was slightly more regular on my channel. No, that is not an advert for Activia. I was just more regular with my uploads. And so it's been a while since I've been back on YouTube. I just did my first live stream. It was an absolute disaster, but that's okay. The first one going terribly means it can only improve, right? So we're going to be doing a Q&A from some of the questions that I got asked on my Instagram. There was quite a few of them, so I'm just going to do maybe about 20. Okay, great, let's get started. Some of these are questions that were part of my live stream. I do a live stream every first Sunday of the month on my channel at 6:30 GMT. So the next one will be on Sunday, the 2nd of March at 6:30 British time. Cassie, just you know, because the accent is not a dead giveaway. But yeah, so I'm going live again in a month where you can ask me all sorts of questions. Okay, so I have got my trusty dusty phone with my very trusty dusty phone case. The first question, so I've decided I'm not gonna name who asked these questions, just because at the moment in the current political climate, anonymity is a very valuable resource for trans people and gender expansive individuals, and also because I love interacting with my subscribers, but a lot of the name on the profile is not the preferred name. And so if I have answered anyone's questions and you specifically want a shout out in the next video, then just let me know down below. So the first question was one from my Instagram. So what surgeries have you had besides SRS? So I do get asked this question quite a bit, I suppose. And unfortunately, other than a very poorly timed incident with my elbow one Christmas Eve, I've never had another surgery other than my sexual reassignment surgery. I have had filler in my lips, so I've had a little bit of lip filler. I've had some Botox, which is currently wearing off, which is really annoying me, so I'm gonna due for a top up. And then I had derma filler, but it did not work because I've got very chubby cheeks, so it makes the difference between the volume of the cheek and the hollowness of the under eye much more apparent. And I was trying to fill it out to kind of get it to match a bit better, but it did not work. So there we go. But no, I haven't had any other surgeries other than SRS and a plate and pin set my lovely elbow, my left elbow to be specific. Okay. Oh, this is one of the questions from the live stream. Who is your favorite singer? And I said in the live stream, well, I kind of gave a bit of a roundabout answer, like a little bit of a, and I would give a more definitive one in this video. I like lots of artists. I like lots of British artists as well. So Ray, Amy Winehouse, really big fan of Sam Smith and their voice and what they represent. Love Paloma Faith. Paloma Faith is a very unique British voice who doesn't seem to have kind of translated to America, which I find really disappointing. But I would say my favourite singer of all time is Lady Gaga, Stephanie Germanotta. One Stephanie Germanotta. She was really popular in 2009 onwards. I started secondary school in 2008. Her music was about queer liberation. It was during the time that I was finding out that I was trans, my queer liberation. I'm called Stephanie because she's called Stephanie because that's the type of gay I was. And I just love her music. Her ability to transcend different genres I find really fascinating, and I personally think that she is our generation's Cher. Like, I think she's as good as, if not better than, Cher, and I think she will remain relevant for decades to come. And I just love the way that she so thoroughly ingratiates herself into pop culture in the moment and reinvents herself. And I think that's very representative of the trans community, of being able to kind of easily navigate a transition in the way that she does in such a public platform. So yeah, I love Lady Gaga. Huge Lady Gaga fan. Cannot wait for Mayhem on March the 7th. So thank you so much for asking. Okay, so what do we, okay, this is, right. Do you regret transitioning? So this is a really interesting question because, fun fact, transition has a less than 1% regret rate, and trans-related surgeries, so lower feminization surgeries, masculinizing chest surgeries, you know, whatever it might be, from hysterectomy to vaginoplasty and everything in between. Gender affirming surgeries have a lower regret rate than hip replacements, childbirth, like having a child, and they're also much more popular than divorce. I don't know why I find that really interesting, but they're also, you know, they're much more popular than literally every other. They have a higher success and higher satisfaction rate than literally every other surgery on the planet. Like even things like fillings in your teeth and a root canal. So I do not regret transitioning. Sometimes I regret the timeline of my transition. Sometimes I think it would have been easier if I came out earlier. Sometimes I think it would have been easier for my family if I'd come out later. But no, I do not regret transitioning. Thank you so much for a lovely third question. What do you do for work? Okay, so I used to work in heritage. So a lot of people who know me will probably know me from opening the UK's first LGBTQ+ museum in King's Cross called Queer Britain. It is kind of a celebration of queer history that's often overlooked. And my career up until that point had been working through, you know, the Tate Galleries, the Science Museum, Shakespeare's Globe, the National Archives. I interviewed at Buckingham Palace and got a job there once just before COVID. And then after Queer Britain, I went on to open the Young V&A, which was refurbished, refitted, and also award-winning, as Queer Britain was. And then my last job in Heritage, funnily enough, I was the Duty Buildings Operations Manager for the Royal Albert Hall. Really amazing, kind of globally regarded music and performance venue, and huge on kind of education and things like that. And that was my last job before leaving the world of heritage and entering the world of clinical psychology and holistic care for trans and gender expansive patients. So I wanted to utilize my coming up for 15 years of experience as a trans person, with that lived experience, with that experience of surgery. And so now what I do is I provide counselling support, and I also provide opportunistic support. So if someone specifically needs access to something, if we need to be advocating for our services more, I tend to do that sort of job. And it's very strange for me because obviously I've been a creative for so many years. So to go from being a creative to working in kind of like a medical professional background is very, very strange. So that's what I do now. Fifth question, have you had FFS? No. I was very lucky to have been blessed with some very high cheekbones, which I believe may have belonged to my grandma. But no, I've not had FFS. I have had some small kind of like, you know, fillers, derma fillers, Botox, but no, I've never had FFS. And I considered it for a really long time, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm quite happy. When I'm thinner, I'm very unhappy with the shape of my chin, so I wouldn't mind having that done if I were to lose weight. But where I've gained weight and my face is kind of, you know, filled out, it's not so bad. So thanks so much for the 5th question. Why did you rebrand your channel? I'd been away from YouTube for a while and I really wanted to invest some money back into my channel as a way of committing myself back to creating content. I thought it was a really important thing to do. And so I went to Jodie at Studio Zenko. Please go and follow Studio Zenko. They did an amazing job with my channel. And I kind of gave the brief of funfetti. I like to present really difficult to digest information in pastel packaging because I think it's the easiest way to digest information about trans people from a joyous trans perspective without the overly negative rhetoric that surrounds trans people and surrounds news about trans people. And so, yeah, I kind of went to her and I was like, I want it to be funfetti. And that's exactly what she did. And I love my new branding. Very, very popular. Thank you so much. But yeah, that's why I rebranded it. I mean, I didn't hate my previous branding, but I just wanted something a bit more like, give it a bit of oomph and give myself a kick up the arse to kind of get my channel back on its feet. So that's 6th question. Okay. So this is interesting. This was a question from my live stream, but I've kind of adapted it to a question about myself. How did you know you were a trans woman and not a cross-dresser? So for myself, similar to lots of other trans people, I did start as a cross-dresser. Obviously I didn't know it at the time. I was unaware that I was participating in transvestitism and things like that. But as a young child, I used to steal my sister's clothing, steal my mother's makeup, you know, go through the kind of process of doing all of those things. And the way that I perceived myself to know that I was transgender and not a cross-dresser or a transvestite is because I found that, you know, when I cross-dress, it made me happy, and when I wasn't cross-dressing, I was thinking about it all the time, and questions about my gender identity kept coming up outside of my time when I was cross-dressing. So yeah, I think that was a really clear kind of progression for me. But also, you know, I went from, you know, cross-dressing, quote unquote, cross-dressing as a child from the age of like, you know, 3 to the age of, you know, 10. And then I didn't actually actively start my transition until just before my 13th birthday. So it took some time to kind of navigate exactly how I felt in myself and what affirmed me and what my gender identity was. But yeah, that's how I knew, and that's how I'd give advice. If anyone would like to see a video on how to know that you're, you know, trans instead of a transvestite, then please let me know in the comments just down below, and I will let you know, and I'll make a little video on it. Why not? Oh, this was a really lovely question, and I think this is the 8th question. What are you most excited about in life after your stroke? So this is a question from my live stream, and for those of you that didn't know, in May 2024 I had a small stroke. I'm still dealing with some of the repercussions of like a slight facial paralysis on one side. So it just means that like the muscles on this side are more defined when I smile, and I have a slight droop in my mouth when I'm talking. You probably didn't notice it, but now obviously you will. And so life after my stroke, I think I'm really enjoying being back on YouTube. I think that people don't realize how much I enjoy making YouTube videos. You know, I grew up with YouTube culture. I love being a YouTuber. I love putting out trans messaging from like a joyous perspective. I like getting dolled up. I like doing video editing, you know, all of those things. So I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying being back at my job. That was, you know, that was a really difficult thing because I had just gone through a transitional period of changing from, sorry, I just completely forgot what I was thinking about, of changing from heritage to trans related work. And I had also just joined London Trans Pride. And so I was very much kind of finding my feet a bit, I guess. And so really enjoying being able to work properly, really enjoying just having my body function the way it's supposed to, which sounds like a really basic thing, but yeah, having a stroke in 2024 and having a blood clot in my brain in 2022 makes me really lucky that my body is still just like functioning. And that's kind of it. That's kind of what I'm focusing on at the moment, what I'm moving towards, making YouTube videos, things like that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying being back on YouTube. So thank you so much for asking. So 10th question. Is being trans more popular now than it ever used to be? So this is my thing. Being trans isn't more popular now. It's just because the education surrounding gender identity and its relationship to our psychological health, to our psyche, to who we are as individuals has become further forward in our kind of thought process, in our knowledge base, in our shared experience. And so I think that if you go back in time historically, there's never been a world without trans people. I mean, you go back to like ancient Mayan civilizations where people between genders were heralded as, you know, gods and were great healers and had a connection to the divine. So there is absolutely not a world where being trans has never existed, because since the dawn of time, as soon as there was Mother Nature, there has been gender ambiguity between different kind of flexible spectrums of gender and sex. And I just think that attitudes towards exploring it have changed a lot. I think that Section 28 and the lifting of Section 28 and the legalization of homosexuality had a big part to play. And I do genuinely think that the internet saw a really big rise in people having access to the information that they needed regarding being trans, regarding questioning their gender identity. But for me, I think that one of the biggest things and one of the biggest shifts I've seen has been since like 2010 and onwards, which is kind of when trans became less of a joke and more of an option for people. You know, we became less about the transvestites that people would laugh to on white chicks and more about people who, you know, are genuinely participating in society in the way that everyone else is. And so I don't think it's more popular now. I think it's just more spoken about, discussed. I think it's more of a shared experience. So yeah, that's kind of what I would say in answer to that question. And you know, in the light of that question, happy LGBTQ+ History Month, everybody. Are the boobs real? Yes, the boobs are real. I do have a video on my channel talking about my boobs. So really interesting facts. So the boobs are made up of breast augmentation. So breasts are made up of 3 different tissues. There's the glandular tissue, which is, you know, your kind of lobes and things like that. There is the muscular tissue, which is like the muscle base of the breast. And then you have the fatty tissue, which makes up for most people the largest percentage of their breasts. And what's really interesting is my breasts haven't really grown. They've just, as I've gotten fatter, they've filled out more. So I'm currently sitting at like a double D, whereas I used to sit at like a large B cup. So they are real, but I did make a video all about them, so go and check that out. Thank you so much for asking. Question 11, have you had FFS? No. Please see the answer to question 1. Question 12. Do you feel as a trans person you need to reclaim your childhood, toys, hobbies, etc.? I think to some extent, yes. If anyone who knows me knows that I will love gingham, anything that kind of looks cutesy. I also love pink, and you know, there are definitely parts of me who indulge in the unexplored juvenility of being a young girl, of exploring those sorts of things. I'm also a big gamer. I like a stuffed animal. I collect Kirby's, which most of you don't know about because I don't really talk about it very much. So yeah, there's definitely parts of me that wants to reclaim that, and I'd love to do that in a bigger way, maybe like an unboxing video of all of the toys I wanted as a child. But I also think that everything has a limit. You know, I explore certain things like that in my everyday life. I explore some of those things in my sexual life. But yeah, I think genuinely there are some parts of me, and I think some parts of everybody, cisgendered or none, that could do with healing their inner child and indulging in some of their previous likes and dislikes. So yeah, I do genuinely think that I do indulge in that, and I do try and reclaim it, but there's only so far you can go with it. So what are you gonna do? Okay, I don't know if that was question 12 or 13. I think this is question 13. I do not know. Maybe this is question 14. What is the trans agenda? Suck dick, commit crime. That's all. That's all. No, there's no hidden agenda. I think for me, the only agenda I think trans people have is providing everyone with equal opportunity to explore gender identity. It's like that whole thing of people thinking that trans people are trying to indoctrinate their children. I'm not trying to turn your cis child trans. I'm trying to turn your trans child into an adult. You know, you can reverse a lot of things about transition, including blockers, including psychotherapy, but you cannot come back from teenage suicide. So I would just like to see your child have access to the education that they need in order to progress into their life as a trans adult. So I'm not trying to indoctrinate them, and there's no agenda. I will say this though, I just want to pee in the bathroom. Please fucking leave me alone. Okay? Just trying to pee. I'm trying not to let the fart out that's definitely brewing, but I just am there to pee. Okay? Go away. So question 14 or 15. What's the hardest thing about being a trans person right now? I think the hardest thing with being a trans person right now is the amount of misinformation there is surrounding us. I think that people are mystifying us a lot, which is interesting in some ways and interesting from like an observational way, but it's also really interesting how much misinformation is out there, that people think that trans people are this like evil, kind of otherworldly, unnatural thing, and then you just kind of like, we've just been here for years, you know, we've just been minding our own business for years, and then all of a sudden this minority that makes up literally less than 1% of the global population is at the forefront of everyone's agenda, is at the forefront of like political debate, and it just seems really strange, because I think the hardest thing facing the trans people and the trans community right now is the fact that people are really trying to profit on the marginalized in terms of furthering their own social and political standing, especially in things like education and I guess the private sector are two of the big ones. Yeah, I'd say that the biggest thing is the misinformation that we face, the idea that we're being misconstrued as kind of, you know, it's the same way that they targeted homosexuality in the 80s and 90s during the AIDS crisis. We're being described as unnatural, we're being described as indoctrinators, we're being described as perverted, we're being described as people who should be castrated. And so I think it's just interesting to kind of experience that fear, and it helps me to empathize with a different generation of the LGBTQIA+ community. But yeah, I think the scariest thing facing our community at the moment is misinformation, like entirely. Definitely. Okay. Oh my gosh, excuse me. What do you like to do when you're bored? This is from my live stream again. I'm a big Netflix binger, love a series, love a cartoon. I'm a big video game nerd, love a video game. And I also, you know, I'm an introvert dressed as an extrovert, and it takes a lot of time and energy, and it really kind of depletes my social battery to be able to be this kind of present. And so a lot of the time I find myself just kind of resting and trying to recharge my batteries. Really, that's all I'm trying to do during my downtime. So yeah, that's really interesting. It's a message from my younger sister, who is the best sister. Abigail is the best sister. Thank you so much for commenting, Abigail. Love you lots. That was also from my live stream. And yeah, okay, I think I'm gonna stop there, just because I don't want this video to get too long. If you like the Q&As, then maybe we could turn them into like a monthly, maybe like a quarterly thing. Maybe like once every quarter the video could be a Q&A. I don't know. Depends how many questions you think you're going to be able to ask me. But I also think that as the live streams kind of progress, that you'll just be able to ask me any questions that you want in the live streams on the first Sunday of every month. This, you know, the next one will be March 2nd at 6:30. But I really hope you enjoyed the terrible live stream. I do apologise, and I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question. There was a few more than I was expecting. Although most of them were like about being trans and less about me as a person. So if you wanted to get to know me a bit more, then, you know, feel free. But thank you so much for watching my video today, and I hope you're having a lovely day. I hope you're avoiding transphobia, and I will see you next week for another video. Bye, lovelies.